Today is Thursday. Chazayin Shvat Tafshin Ayin Gimel. We are in Teres Menachem, Sefer Mamar Tafshin Yud Aleph Tafshin Yud Beis. We're starting a brand new Maimer today. The Maimer of Lag Ba'omer Tafshin Yud Aleph on page Ayin Daled, page 74. Dibra Maschil begins on the Pasuk Usfartem Lochem. Usfartem Lochem Mamar Usfartem Lochem, and you shall count for you, to you, the day after Shabbos, which over here refers to the day after the first day of Pesach, which is called Yom Tov, is also called Shabbos because it's a rest day. From the day that you bring the omer of lifting, that was the korban ha'omer, the omer which you lift. The korban ha'omer, the omer offering, was from the new ripened grain. It was a korban that was brought from barley, and that was brought on the second day of Pesach. It was cut on the second night of Pesach, at night, and it was brought as an offering in the Beis Hamikdash on the second day of Pesach. So we start counting Sfiras Ha'omer from the day on which we bring the Korban Ha'omer. The Rebbe explains that first there needed to be the mitzvah of bringing the Korban Ha'omer, and then it was followed by the counting of Sfiras Ha'omer. The mitzvah of counting the days between Pesach and Shavuos. And when do we start counting? On the second night of Yom Tov. And the mitzvah was...
Why is it the opposite way around?
The mitzvah was Lemimne Yemi, to count days. Or mitzvah Lemimne Shavuos, the mitzvah is also to count weeks. As we do in Sfiras Ha'omer, we say Hayom Yom, today is so many days, which is so many weeks and so many days to the Omer. Mitzvah zu, this mitzvah is bein havas or emer l'chag Shavuos. This mitzvah is performed between what are the two borders for this mitzvah? In other words, when does it begin and when does it end? It begins when we bring the korban ha'omer, or following the bringing of the korban ha'omer, and it ends when? Just before Shavuos. Shavuos is the day right after we finish counting Sfiras Ha'omer. I think what Kevin wanted to ask was, what did you want to ask instead of me guessing?
Why is it the opposite way around?
That
in the posting it says first it was Usfartem Lochem, you count, and then it says talk about bringing, but the order he brings it afterwards is the other way around, or which is the correct one?
Well, the pasuk says Usfartem Lochem Machras Shabbos. From when? Miyom Haviachem es Emer Atnufa. That's the pasuk qualifies the statement. In other words, it explains the statement. When should you count from?
Right.
In fact, in the Gemara, there's a whole discussion. The Tzdukim said Mimachras Shabbos means literally after Shabbos. Pesach fell out on Tuesday. Pesach fell out on Tuesday. The Tzdukim said you start counting from the day following the next Shabbos. Right? And there's a whole discussion in the Gemara to refute their contention. One of them being, of course, it says Miyem Aviyachem es Emer Atnufa. And the Emer Atnufa was brought when? On the first day of Pesach. So Mimachras Shabbos. But there's a whole long discussion. Rabbi Chilem Zakai, Rabbi Chilem Seida, Rabbi Shimon Levi, I think, a whole bunch of Tanoim that are refuting the position of the Tzdukim, and the conclusion is that the Psak is, of course, the way we do it is that it starts on the second night of Pesach. And what does it mean from when you bring the Korban Ha'omer? It means, even though the Omer was brought actually during the day, it wasn't brought at night, it was brought during the day. In fact, you weren't allowed to eat from this is the whole idea of Chodosh, eating from the new grain, right? You weren't allowed to eat from the new grain until they brought the Korban Ha'omer in the Beis Hamikdash. So those that were close to Yerushalayim, to the Beis Hamikdash, and knew when they brought the Korban Ha'omer, when they knew when the Korban Ha'omer was brought, and they knew when you can start eating from the new grain. What about those that lived far away? The answer is that they would bring the korban. They would not eat until midday from midday of the second day of Pesach and on, it would know by that time, certainly, the Korban Omer was already brought in the Beis HaMikdash, because Bezdin and the Kohanim are not lazy in the mitzvah. They will do it as soon as possible. Then, because of discrepancies of Kiddush HaChedesh and so on and so forth, Rabbi Chaim Zakkai later on made a takana. He instituted that you shouldn't eat the whole day of the second day of Pesach. You should wait until the whole second day has passed, and only then to eat Chodesh, just to be on the safe side. Anyway, be that as it may, this is the idea of counting the Sfiras Omer. We need to understand Mamar Usfartem Lochem. Why does it say you should count Shabbos from the day following Shabbos, which over here, as we mentioned before, refers to the following. I'm sorry, I forgot one point. Now, when the Korban Omer was brought, when do we start counting? We start counting from the second night. When was the Korban Omer brought? On the second day. So if it had to be from when you, if the order was first the Omer, and then Sfiras Omer, first the Korban, and then the counting, you should have started counting
in the first night. Or
either the third night, or on the second day following the bringing of the Omer. We start counting on the second night, which is before they brought the Omer. Because the Omer was brought during the day of the second day. So, basically it works like this. There's a mitzvah to count days, and there's a mitzvah to count weeks. Which means you have to count full days. So you have to start counting when? At the beginning of the first day. When does the first day begin? It had to be Tmimis, it had to be whole days. So it starts on the second night. The Korban was brought when? On the second day. So how do you work all these things together? So as mentioned, the bringing of the Omer, in other words, they identified, I think they identified the stalks that they would use for the Korban even before Pesach. When they went out there and they put little bands on these stalks, and they said, these are the ones I'm going to use for the Korban Omer. On the second night of Pesach, they went out and actually cut it. The Mishnah Menachos explains that it was a whole beautiful procedure how they did it with the sickle. There was a whole process, and many people came, and so on and so forth, with the procession. So the cutting was on the second night. So the Seder was like this: first cutting, then counting, and the actual bringing was during the day. So everything works out together. You have the bringing of the grains, as it were, the barley to the Beis HaMikdash at night, without bringing it as a korban yet, just cutting it and storing it, so to speak. Then you counted, and then you brought the following day. You brought the korban. So the Rebbe asks the question: we need to understand what does it mean? Why does the pasuk say you should count from the day following Shabbos, which means following the rest day of the first day of Pesach, following Yom Tov? The Lechura, it would seem since what does the pasuk mean? When should you start counting? The day after.
Say it.
So say it. The day after the first day of Pesach. Say it. Say the day following Pesach. Why say it in such an obscure way? And you have to figure out that it doesn't really mean Shabbos as we know it. Over here, Shabbos is a reference to Yom Tov. Strange. Particularly, and especially, particularly, indeed, as the Tzdukim, the Sadducees, did I pronounce it correct? Sadducees. Especially since the Sadducees did mistakenly say that the intention of the pasuk is indeed to what? To the day following Shabbos Bereishis, meaning the Shabbos of the week. The Chachmei Yisrael, and the wise men of Israel, meaning the Chachamim, had to debate with them and to bring proofs that the intention of the pasuk here is to what? To the day following Pesach. And therefore, the question is, why did the pasuk not explicitly state that it means the day following the first day of Pesach, but rather say it in a roundabout, obscure way, the day following Shabbos, and we have to figure out that it means the first day of Pesach. So that's how the Rebbe sets up the Maimer. The Yuvas Rebbe Hakt in Bir Klal in Sfiras Omer, chapter 2. We will understand this first by prefacing. Prefacing the explanation and the general idea of counting the Omer. This counting, what is it all about? The Mishnah states, Kol hamnochas boyos min achitin. All mincha offerings, right? One of the kabbalas that were brought in the Beis Hamikdash was known as the korban mincha. The mincha offerings were from flour. Which grain was used for the flour? So all mincha offerings, all flour for the mincha offerings, were brought from wheat. Vizu, and this one, referring to the mincha of the Seita. You know the din of the Seita? The din of the Seita is a woman who is suspected by her husband of behaving improperly in the context of a married relationship. So, but there's no proof, actual proof of misconduct. So that's the mitzvah, the din of the mitzvah of Seita. So the husband could be mekane li'ishtei. He could warn her, right? And if he warns her and she still continues with the behavior, but we still have no conclusive proof, he brings it to the Beis Hamikdash, and then they would scrape off the letters and they would mix it with mayim hamorim, with water. She would drink it, and if she was guilty, she perished, and if she was innocent, in fact, she got a bracha as a result of consuming this water. And as part of the process, she also had to bring a korban mincha, a mincha offering. So her mincha offering was made out of what? Min hasayrim. V'zu minchas k'nois, this one, which was what? The mincha of the husband warning the wife, the mitzvah of Seita. Ba min hasayrim was brought from what? From barley. So that one was brought from barley. V'chein minchas ha'emer ba min hasayrim, so to the mincha that we're discussing over here, that was brought on what? On the second day of Pesach, was also brought from barley. So these were the two exceptions. The reason why the korban mincha of warning the Seita, it was brought from barley rather than wheat, because Se'irin, barley, Michael Behema, is the food of the animals. I'm sorry. I'm not singing it correctly. Why, when it came to bringing the korban of the minchas knois, the korban mincha of the knois, it was brought from barley, animal food. The Mishnah explains, just like this woman behaved like an animal, so to speak, animalistic behavior. So too, her offering should also be animal food. So that explains what minchas knois. What about the mincha that we brought on the second day of Pesach? We still need to explain why is the Eimer different from all others, which is also brought specifically from barley rather than wheat. So the crux of the explanation in this is that is because what is the avodas Hashem, the service of man to God, that is embedded within bringing this physical mincha offering of the Eimer, is the idea of hu inyan bir nefesh abamis. It is the idea of refining the animal soul. So since we're dealing with what? With the refinement of the animal soul, therefore we bring a korban which is ma'achal behema, animal food. Just one or two more lines. Bir inyan, to explain this, the hinei hagili shehoya b'yem alaf d'chag Pesach hoya b'bchinas isurus d'leilim mitzad atzmin. The revelation of godliness that took place on the first day of Pesach was through an awakening from above on its own, meaning to say it was God's initiative. As it says in the pasuk, as it says, when you will take out this nation from Egypt, you will serve God on this mountain. When was that? That was after they left Egypt, when they came to Sinai. That means that the idea of serving Hashem on the initiative of the ones below, on the initiative of the Jewish people, that began after they left Egypt. But not so when it came to the in Yetzias Mitzrayim itself, which was when? On the first day of Pesach. On that occasion, the awakening was from above to below, rather than what? Rather than us taking the initiative and God responding. We'll continue this from tomorrow.